What's up guys, Shane here, Fugatech 3D Printing, and today I'm going to go into a lot more detail on the Frankenshuttle. Welcome back guys. Like I said, today we're going to go into more details on the Frankenshuttle. A lot of questions came up via Facebook and on YouTube, and looking back at the video, I didn't go into enough detail because I really wanted to get it on quickly and get printing again because the FT5 is like my workhorse. So what I decided to do is I reprinted everything. I just did it in PLA with like a 15% info, just really quick, just so I could have the parts to show you. So I'm going to show you all the common parts that there are, and then how to actually use each one, and like how to decide what you want to use, what you want to be able to get out of the Frankenshuttle. I think it's a great thing to do for people who don't want to spend money on the like 713 maker kit, which is, I think the gantry alone is like $60 or $70. Like, it's wicked expensive. It's a great kit, don't get me wrong. Having a solid metal, like the aluminum kit for the extruder carriage, having that being metal, great option. But I don't think that's for everyone. And if we're 3D printers and we're the DIYers that we want to be, you can be able to do something like this. So I just want to say real quick, a big thanks to Jeremy Parker, the creator of the Frankenshuttle. He also has the, I think it's called the Bride of the Frankenshuttle. So it's in the Google Drive under the, I think it's Prusa i3 or just Prusa, however you want to say that. And that is, so you can put the Frankenshuttle on a Prusa i3 style printer, which is great. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at all the different parts. I'm going to explain to you how to put them together and what parts you're going to need to do whatever you need to do. So yeah, let's look at the parts. Okay, so as you can see here, there are a lot of different parts here. So we have the standard carriage parts for the top, the front plates, the back plate. Then we have the kind of modular system. So this would be the modular front plate, which then takes either one of these three front pieces. And then you have your cooling fan setup, and this is either for a standard E3D V6 or an E3D V6 with a volcano nozzle on it. So we're going to start off right here with the most basic first and then move our way up from there. Okay, so here we're going to look at the main faceplates first. And you can see there are two different ones here. So this is for the stock extruder motor. This is for a pancake stepper motor. So if you're going to use a Titan extruder, which most likely if you're going to use this, you should probably be using that because it's much better extruder. Either way, so this will work for your stock motor. Your wires will just come out of the top or the bottom. They'll loop back through into the actual carriage itself once we get it all built. And these just secure on with whatever it is the extruder you're using. It just secures on to these four holes and it mounts up. And then these four here, 2 and 2, we'll talk about those in a minute. Here on the back, you will have support in each of these holes, these recesses, and all the way up here to these motor mounts. This will all have support. These print up just like this, how I have them here. This is how they're going to print. And then you will have support down in this gap down here, which is where the cooling fan will end up hooking into if you choose to use the Scorpion cooler that Jeremy has created. So now that we know about these, oh, and on the sides here, these are for BL Touch mount, or you can modify it for an inductive probe mount. You can, I mean, that's a very quick and easy thing to model up. Anyone can really CAD that up. And then here we have the back plate. So this is very cool. It has some built-in cable management right here. And we have 6 screw mounts here. So when this mounts to the back, these top 2 and bottom 2 mount up with the top and bottom of the carriage. These 2 right here will actually match up with nothing. They are just there to have a bolt put into it, or I should say a nut. It's kind of hard to see in there because of the light blue. I'm sorry for the color I chose. But you're going to put a captive nut in here. This is a captive nut hold for a nylock, which you can put in there, and that is going to help hold on other parts. If you're not using the part cooling fan, you don't need to worry about these holes whatsoever. Your belt is just going to end up looping through here, and then it will just zip tie on each side like that. And okay, so it will loop through and go under here. So if you look here from the side, this is recessed because your belt comes out here and comes back down through here and it comes back. So that's why you have all this clearance here. It's plenty for it. There's no reason to worry any other way. So now that we talked about these parts, how are you going to hook them together? You're going to need 2 of these. So this one is the bottom. So this automatically, you're going to just go ahead and print this one out. You're going to need this one, and this will mount right into the bottom of each of these, on like here, and on our back plate like so. Let me get this right here, something like that. and it just clips in like so, and you're, oh, that's upside down, Shane. No wonder it's not matching up right. There we go. Okay, so your screw is going to go in through the front, your bolt. It will go through this centerpiece into a nylock into this captive hole, and then you will just screw that down, and then that is mounted in there. And this plate here, these ends will recess in, will pull into this front plate, into these recesses to make a nice tight fit. And for the top, you have two options. Some people have chosen to remove the cable chain. If you did, you're going to use this. If you still have the cable chain, you're going to need this, because this has two captive nut holes in it for two nylocks, and then you can remount your cable chain to this, and then you're off to the races. These four holes right here are for mounting this to the, oh heck, FT14, I believe the piece was. It's in my video. I showed you I had to end up still using it. It mounts to that, and then that piece mounts to, that's the spacer basically between this and the slider, the linear rail slider. So you're going to need, I end up using these two because I still use my cable chain along with the back plate, and I went with the hot swap situation. So let's look at that. So these are the parts for the more hot swappable configuration. So instead of using one of these main front plates, you're going to use this, and it actually has the little Frankenstein logo in here, which again you can't see because I'm using like a translucent blue filament, but either way you understand what I mean. So this is going to be the front plate that you're going to mount to these top and bottom pieces and to this back plate. This is going to be it, which is really nice and easy to do. And then what you also need on this are two of these little wingdings. Honestly, I don't know the technical name. There's a top and a bottom one. They mount on using a nylock in the back and just a simple, what, I think 12mm M3 is what I used. And then as you rotate this, it goes, and it's, as you see, it's like tapered there. It actually will lock on whatever plate you decide to use. So after you mount this, you want to make sure you add these on. So one goes like that there. This bottom one goes like this here, and it's a simple little turn and it locks it on. Now speaking of locking on, you have three options here. So the same as the front plates from the previous, you have the same but for hot swap ones. And I will say this right now, the default or the stock FT5 extruder motor does not fit in this configuration. It will fit in this one on the actual main bracket, but for the hot swap bracket it does not fit. You will need to buy a new extruder motor. Or if you're going to go with a pancake motor, which I highly recommend, it will fit perfectly in here, and I'll put a link down below on which pancake motor I had purchased for using this with. And as you see here, there's two kind of like teeth almost on one side, and this side's completely flat. And it's super thin. I mean, super duper thin. It just slides in to the main piece. I actually have a little bit of filament there, but it just slides right in like so. As you see, there's a little bit of an indent here and here to allow room for when these turn to lock it in. So you see it like that, it just kind of locks it on there, which is great. That makes this super duper secure for printing, and you can print at really fast speeds and none of this shakes up at all. A little bit better. So sometimes there is a little bit of sagging. There is no support in this piece. Or we'll say, I mean, there is support, but see there's a little bit of filament sagging in there. So support again here is going to be inside these cuts and inside the captive nut, and then you'll be able to just kind of cut out what's left in here and then slide these right in, and it goes in nice and firm like that. Again, then you just lock these down and it locks. With these off, you can pull this plate out very easily. So you don't have to take these off in order to pull this plate in and out. It's not a hard thing to do. Okay, so you're gonna use these two mounts if you're gonna do a direct drive extruder, which I recommend. Bowden has its place. I'm not a huge fan of it, but either way, if you do want to go the Bowden setup, there is a mount for that right here. And it also comes with a front clamp to clamp on there so that it clamps on your E3D hot end. And right here you have your mount again for your BL Touch mount that he has, which I, strangely enough, did not print, it looks like. I thought I did, but it's just a little L bracket basically that fits on here that has the 3 holes for a BL Touch. You can also again modify that for your own proximity sensor or anything like that. These holes go straight through, again, to captive nut holes. You can put some nylocks in there, and that will make sure that your extruder is super duper secure on there and doesn't move. And you have a filament guide tube, so you can go ahead and run your PTFE tubing in there, and that will be nice and straight. And it even shows you right here, there's a little picture kind of an E3D hot end Bowden setup, so that's kind of cool. So that takes care of the main extruder, the front plates, back plates, top plates, the standard configuration, the hot swap configuration. Now let's look at the cooling fan. Now with the cooling fan, you have two options of Scorpion coolers. You have this one right here is for the standard E3D, and you have this one right here, which is for the E3D Volcano. These print just like so, with support, which is kind of hard to tell. So you see how it kind of scoops out here? It will do automatic support here, and there wasn't any under here, but it was all up under here. Same with this one, it scoops to the right as well, and goes. There's a tiny bit of support that comes on here. I just plucked that off, and then it's just right here. You want to make sure your support is set up from build plate only. Otherwise, you're going to get it all up in here, and you're never going to get any of that out. So trust in your bridging if you have a decent setup, and you will do well. Now you see it has this kind of clip, this lip right here in the front. That is to mount to these front plates. There's that lip as well. That just sits right in there and makes it so to hold it in steady. And then for the back plate, you take this back plate and use this even further back plate, and it sandwiches right onto there. Now this changes up a few things. Number one, you're going to end up needing to put nuts in here. I believe these were just 12 or 15 millimeter M3s. And then you need nylocks in here to lock that on there. Number two, you're going to need longer screws for your bottom brace right here. So it's going to be like this. If I can hold all this together, I'll just use this one. Now you see, it needs an extra like 10 to 15 millimeters to get out to that back M3 nylock out there. So you're going to need longer screws. For the bottom, I was able to use the stock screws. You can use the stock screws that come with the FT5 for putting this together. For at least the 4 bolts, you can use the stock ones. I end up using the stock ones for the top and a little bit shorter ones for the stock ones for the bottom, shorter ones for the top. But once I added this on, I used all the stock screws. It wasn't a problem at all. And as you see, once you have this together, there is still a hole here for your timing belt to run through there. So that's going to run right through the back of there. And you have one mounting hole here because this is for a, I believe they're called 5015, the turbine fans. 50 millimeter turbine fan. And it will just sit right into here. It just kind of like pops in there, and you know, screw this down. It's secure enough in my opinion. Some people don't think it is. But let's talk more about this back plate. Now in here you're going to notice there's 2 holes here on the bottom. Well, what in the world are those for? Well, once we take our fan shroud and we put it on there, and sometimes it's a tight fit. I mean, it really should be a tight fit because otherwise it will just fall off if it isn't. And sometimes it's just because if your bridging isn't spot on, there we go. If your bridging isn't spot on, you'll just need to kind of shave away right in here to make sure to get a little bit more spacing. So I'm a little embarrassed by this, and I didn't know this till now because I never printed this one before. This is the BL Touch mount. I just forgot to rotate it and move it. It is literally embedded into this print as part of it because I didn't rearrange the models after I rearranged them. So yeah, I'm super embarrassed by that right now. That shouldn't be there. So yeah, totally ignore what I said about this whole deal. That should not have been there. It should look just like this. And I apologize for my stupidity, but hey, it happens. Anyways, so we get this on here like so. Again, it is a pretty tight fit. So you probably need to shave away around the inside a little bit. Okay, so now that that's on there, see, focus there. All right, so now that's on there, you're gonna need 2 more of these little thumb screw deals, and they just sit on like so. And when you rotate them, it locks in on the lip that's right here. They end up locking down on the lip and holding that on really secure. So you need one of the top ones, one of the bottom ones. Again, it sits on there, rotates in, and hugs this onto this back bracket, which again mounts right here to the back here, like so. So we have the back bracket there, then we have the middle bracket, and then we have the front, which again, there's the lip, and there's that little tongue that sticks right into there. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not using any screws right now, so it's a little bit harder to do. And then there is your bottom configuration. It looks like there's a little bit of space right now between the mount and that, which once you put a bolt through this and you secure it into these indents, once these get pushed into them, it's not a problem at all. It just sucks right in there and we'll go. It's really hard to do in PLA, which I do not recommend doing it. I just did it for quick and cheap print for the purpose of this video. But if you're using PETG, it will squish in there really nice and get you a real nice solid mount. It's great. Okay, so what are you going to need to actually put this together? Well, you're going to need a little assortment of M3s. So I'll put a link on Amazon for these and a couple other ones that I've used in the past. You're going to need some M3 nylocks. I would say just pick up a thing of 50 of them. You're going to need them eventually if you plan on doing more mods on your printers. So might as well just go ahead and buy it and have it, and that way you don't need to worry about it. Obviously you're going to need a set of Allen wrenches or a metric screwdriver set with the hex bits in it. You're going to need that, and I'll put a link again on Amazon for a few that I use. All right, you're also going to need a set metric screwdriver or Allen wrenches. I prefer using this. It's a little bit more accurate and easier to use than Allen wrenches, and you can really torque down using this. This is just a Pittsburgh Pro brand from Harbor Freight. This is just Pittsburgh Pro brand from Harbor Freight. You can get, if you have a Harbor Freight nearby, great. Pick that up right away. If not, I'll put some links for Amazon and whatnot down below if you need to pick up a nice cheap set. Don't go with the cheapest set you can buy, because these actually will just like null. They will just dull out. They won't be so nice and clean and accurate anymore. They'll just kind of screw up the bolts and like the head of the bolt, and they'll just screw up your bit as well if you get really cheap ones. I've had that with some printer kits that I've received in the past. So get a decent set of this and you'll be off to the races. And again, you're also going to need the stock screws that you took off of the extruder. You're going to go ahead and reuse those. There's a couple of nylocks in there you can reuse, and those long screws, I believe those are like 50 millimeter or something like that. Those will work out great for joining the front plate to the top and the bottom to the back plate, and even more so if you're going to use the fan. Adding this on here as well. It's a little tedious to get this together, I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit of a struggle to finally figure it all out in the beginning. There are no instructions how to do this, it's just the parts. Jeremy put them out there and expected everyone to figure it out if you're going to use it. And that's what a lot of people do. But there were so many questions that came up, I had to do this video just to help out some of the more inexperienced people out there. Okay, that wraps it up. I hope I hit all the questions. I hope I went over all the different parts. The only parts that I did not print are the Chimera parts. And I've honestly seen like 1 or 2 people put the Chimera on the FT5, so I didn't feel the need to print those out. If you do, they're labeled Chimera in the actual zip, so you can go ahead and just download those files and print those. Those are using the hot swap plate here, and it's very similar to the Bowden style setup, except it has, you know, again, the mounts for the Chimera mount with like the dual extruder, and that just slides right in, and that's the only other part you'll have to print for that. And I believe there is a fan and there is a touch different probe for that, different probe mount for that as well. But again, there's like 2 or 3 extra parts. It's all in the part file, so if you're using Chimera, use those. Alright guys, I really hope this helps out. I hope I answered all your questions. If I missed any, I'll answer them down in the comments, so please leave them. So I think this is a great way to upgrade your printer and gain back some of that Z height if you've switched over to a Titan with an E3D V6 or an E3D V6 with a Volcano extruder, which really hinders your build height. Because by using this, you're raising your extruder from below the 2020 frame to in front of the 2020 frame, which gains back, I think I got back 40 millimeters when I did my change, which was absolutely fantastic. I was super happy about that. So I'm getting back my full 400 build height, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. So one thing I really forgot to mention are the print settings for this. So what you're going to do is you're going to use either a PETG or ABS. I prefer PETG just because I was actually able to squish the parts together a little bit more. It's a little more malleable, but it's super duper strong if you have good layer adhesion. ABS is arguably better, but ABS is super duper stiff, and I was kind of afraid of a part breaking. I also really don't like ABS because it's so hard to print with. So I prefer PETG. All right, so your print settings are going to be 3 perimeters, 30% infill. I prefer honeycomb or rectilinear. I feel it's stronger. You're going to want 4 top layers, 4 bottom layers, and with support touching the build plate only. Again, if you have good cooling, all these other overhangs right here should have no problem whatsoever. I should say these bridges should have no problem printing for you. And if you have any questions on how to set up, if you're going to print on the FT5, if you have any questions on how to set up Simplify 3D, I'll put a link up here to my Simplify 3D video where I walk through all the settings that you need to know on setting up Simplify 3D for FT5, and there's also a couple little tips in there on how to get great support and be able to pull it right off. So again, I really hope this helps out. If it did, give it a thumbs up. If it didn't, you know what, just leave me a comment down below and let me know what I can do to help out, or thumb down it. You know, I try my best in these videos. I try to think through everything that I can, but I clearly missed going over this part in that first install videos. So I really hope this video helps those who are trying to change over from the stock extruder to something different. I hope this helped you guys out. So if you want to help me out, best thing to do, subscribe down below. Even better, go ahead and hit that bell icon. That way you get an email anytime I upload new content. So if you might have a question, a video might just come out. You'll see it in your email and then you'll know the answer. Great. If you want to support me financially, go ahead and do it via Patreon. Donate me $1 more. Greatly appreciate it. Current Patreons, you guys are awesome. Those funds go to paying for things for the channel, like filament that I used to print this with. It was just a roll that I had purchased and I had on hand, so I decided to use it to print out all these parts. And if you want to support me without spending your money, go ahead and use all the affiliate links down below. They're for a ton of different vendors down there, and by using those, I get a little slice and it helps pay for all the random things that I do here on the channel. Again, that goes to things like new lenses and filament and all the other odds and ends that it takes to run a YouTube channel. So I thank you guys so much for watching. So I thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy printing.